If you're a chess player, you know the importance of improving your middle games. Most of your games are going to finish in the middle game, not the opening, not the end game. In this video, I'm going to show you a comprehensive guide to improve your middle game, how to plan from scratch. I'm going to show you what are the 3 skills you need to improve in your middle game, and how to learn middle games without memorizing any concepts. So let's take a look. I won't talk too much about the opening because this is a middle game video. However, I would like you to pay attention to this area, right? The evolution from the computer, and well, the evolution bar as well. I think these two things are gonna help you to understand my explanation more. So you see, if you take a look at the numbers, the position is going to stay equal for a long time. At this level, these players already know many moves in the opening, so we don't expect to win in the opening. Actually, my main motto when it comes to play openings is not to get a winning position, it's more like getting a playable position. So let's see. In this position, they play a Sicilian opening. Nathan played the open Sicilian, and he played this move pawn to a3, which is a move we have studied before. The idea is to prevent bishop b4 that pins the knight. And well, here black played the move d5, bishop b5, bishop d7, pawn takes, knight takes, knight takes, pawn takes. And we're getting closer to the middle game. Right now we have a middle game. Nathan just played the move bishop f1, and since both sides already castled, we are in the early middle game. Okay, and from here I wanna put my focus on 3 things, and that's what I recommend you. What are the things you need to win a middle game? Most of your games are not gonna last until the end game, or they won't finish in the opening. Most of them are gonna finish in the middle game. That's why you want to put more of your focus on improving the middle game section. So I want to start this little session with this question: what don't you need to win a middle game? Okay, because there's a lot of misconceptions on what do you actually need. An overwhelming advantage from the opening is not required to win a middle game. When it comes to learn openings, you shouldn't aim for getting the perfect opening or the perfect opening book repertoire. It should be more like how to get playable positions. You don't need an overwhelming advantage. In this case, Nathan, as you noticed, he's entering the middle game without no real advantage. His advantage is not huge. The position is even. What don't you need to win the middle game? Fancy sacrifices or getting too creative. You don't have to sacrifice all the time. You don't have to get too creative. I know that some people, when they don't know what to do, they start like getting creative, quote unquote creative, and they start trying to make sacrifices work. And there's a moment and place for making a sacrifice, but most of the time, if your position is not solid, the sacrifice is not working. It's not going to work. And you don't need to sacrifice all the time, and you don't have to get creative. Most of the time, you just need to follow old, boring principles to win a middle game. And we're going to talk about them later, but you don't need fancy sacrifice, neither getting too creative. Also, you don't need a big fat blunder from the opponent. Most people depend on the blunder of the opponent to win a game. It's like they try to be careful, and at some point the opponent is going to make a mistake, like giving away a piece, and that's when you can make or allow you to make a tactic like a fork or a double attack, a double check, and from there you win a piece. But you don't need that. You can actually conduct your opponent to a tricky position where he can make mistakes, but not necessarily blunders. A real master of the fundamentals know how to create a plan to induce the opponent to make a mistake rather than just hoping for a miracle, rather than just hoping for a blunder. What do you need to win a middle game? You just need 3 things. Okay, let's keep it simple. You need to create an organized attacking plan. You need to have good calculation in the critical moment, and you need to pay attention to your opponent's ideas. Those are 3 things, and we are going to talk about how to create an attacking plan. What do you need to create an attacking plan? And most importantly, an organized attacking plan. First of all, you need to assess where you have more chances of success. So let's go back to the game. In this position, his opponent played the move pawn to a6. Nathan first needs to keep improving the development of his pieces, so he plays bishop e3. Bishop d6 was played. And here's where Nathan started to use his this mindset of assessing where's his advantage and where he can create an attack. At this position, he noticed that the king is fine, but it doesn't have the typical knight on f6 that defends h7. He also notices that this diagonal is weak, h7 is weak, so he can incorporate a bishop here. And he felt like it's a good idea to just attack the king side because you might create some weaknesses around the king side. Not only that, but also this d5 pawn is weak. So how can you target this pawn? You can play queen f3. That's one idea. And you can play queen h5. Now that you see that you might want to attack the king side, queen h5 is more appealing. And that's what he did. Because when you play queen h5, you're attacking this isolated pawn. And you're also attacking the h7 pawn. Of course, this is not enough to win, okay? We are talking about a game between two 1900 players. And of course, Nathan doesn't expect to deliver a checkmate in the next two moves. But this is just the beginning. The queen on h5 on itself is not enough, all right? But you have the bishop on f1. And who knows, maybe this bishop can go here to put more pressure on h7. Okay, so right now Nathan has this first important step, which is the attacking plan, and he understands where he's going to land this attacking plan. What's the direction? Without a proper orientation and without a proper read of the position, if you don't understand what's going on, then it's going to be very hard for you to come up with a plan. And of course, your plan is not supposed to be a plan where you hope your opponent make a mistake. You can induce your opponent to make a mistake. And from here, the position is very tricky for black because let's say that black plays the move bishop e6, trying to defend, defending this pawn. The knight takes bishop, pawn takes, and now bishop d3. And once again, h7 is a problem. Okay, and to prevent this checkmate, you can play g6. But now is when you can do the second thing, which is, apart from assessing where you have more chances of success and deciding that's going to be the direction you want to take, you want to also, this is something that we are going to say, I'm going to explain you in a second, but also you need, and here it is, you need good calculation in the critical moment. So apart from getting an organized attack. And here it turns out you have a tactic on hands because your opponent is weak. The king has lost one important pawn, and also the king he doesn't have a lot of defenders, just a rook. Bishop g6 works, and Nathan is trained to find tactics like this. This is called destruction of the defense. The idea is after pawn takes, queen takes g6, king h7. Simply you can play bishop g5, and the rook can go here, and the bishop is also checking on h8. For example, bishop e7. Okay. Then you can play something like queen h6, king here, rook takes e6, and this is just too much, If the rook doesn't go this way, it can also go to, this way. And if, for example, you take rook g6 check, king here, rook g7 check, king here, queen g6 check, rook here, queen f7. I know these are too many moves to calculate, but at some level, when you improve your calculation skills, maybe you don't see this far, but at least you can see that bishop g6 has a high chance of success, and you can pull off a move like this. And in your way, you can win the game. However, bishop g6 is not the only good move. You can also play something like queen here, and you're still creating a lot of threats around the king. Okay, but bishop g6 is the best move. In this case, it will be very helpful to be a good calculation to make this sacrifice. Again, you don't need fancy sacrifices, but here it's like bishop g6 is not getting too creative because that's what the position requires from you. The problem of doing sacrifices all the time and getting creative is that sometimes people do that because they can't find something better and they get creative. It's like, okay, I don't know what to do, but this sacrifice looks good, let's go for it. But here, Nathan, or the white player, knows what he's doing, and he can pull off a sacrifice like this. Sadly, the game didn't take this direction. Here, black didn't play bishop e6. I just show you bishop e6 because it is important to analyze sublines to see more ideas. And in the post-mortem part of the game, you want to take a look at this. You want to explore new ideas as well. Here, black played the move pawn to g6, but the problem is queen takes c5, and white has an extra pawn. Now, the best move, according to the computer, is knight to e5, which is a reasonable, easy move to find. I think knight e5 also has one or more benefit, which is preventing the bishop to go to d3. Okay, and the game can continue. All right. However, this 1900 guy, and I'm not saying this because I want to talk bad about him. He's a strong player. Otherwise, he wouldn't become a FIDE master. But the point is, he overlooked the queen d5 threat. He missed this. And that's something that can happen. And that happens even to the best players. So here he played g6 instead. But then queen to d5. And now Nathan has an extra pawn. So his little middle game plan to attack the king, right, is paying off. So far, he's going in the right direction. He has one extra pawn. Of course, this is not enough to win. So there are other things I want to say here. What do you need to create an attacking plan? You need to assess where you have more chances of success, and you want to point your pieces in that direction. That's why he played queen h5, and that's why he was preparing bishop d3. Also, you want to estimate and prevent possible counter plans from your opponent. Okay, this mindset is going to be more important whenever you want to address or you want to spot the next move of your opponent. Because when you're playing chess, you are co-creating a story with your opponent, and you need to address his needs, his desires, his threats. All right, most people just overlook all of that, and that's why they end up making blunders. Here's one more thing I want to say. When it comes to create what do you need to win a middle game? You need to create an organized attacking plan, and also you need good calculation in the critical moment. This happened in the game. Black played the move bishop f5. Okay, this move is very tricky. Okay, because here white has two options: knight takes bishop, knight takes knight. I think those options are pretty reasonable, but one move is correct and the other move is just a disaster. And the only way to know which piece you have to take is by calculating. And this is where most people make a lot of mistakes too. Most people feel like, oh, in order to improve my chess, I need to improve my middle games, which is true. You need to improve your middle games, but that's the 50%. The other 50% is to improve your calculation too. That's critical. Because in situations like this, when you have the advantage, this is where you need to be more accurate and precise. If you take that bishop on f5, bishop h2, and it's over. Bye-bye. Because king takes bishop and queen takes queen. There's a tactic known as discovered attack. Right? So you can't take the bishop. And if you take the knight, bishop h2 is still possible. However, and this is very important, after king h2 and queen takes d5, Nathan has a move knight e7 check. And after king g7, knight takes e5, and white has two extra pieces out of this combination. And it is important that before you make a decision, you calculate all of this. That's what I'm saying. If you want to improve your middle game skills, you also need to improve your calculation skills. Okay, you need to have good calculations in the critical moments. Most people overlook this. They are obsessed with middle games, and that's why they're starting reading books, which is part of the process, but it's not the only thing. I have seen many situations where some player has a winning position, and then since he's not calculating and preventing and anticipating to the possible dangers, they make mistakes and they end up losing games. That's something you can prevent for sure. So here Nathan played the move knight takes e6, and his opponent, who is very strong, he saw all of this coming, so he realized that, oh no, I have to take the knight. But then Nathan captured on c6, and it turns out that now Nathan has two extra pawns. This process, I call this process in the middle game part, the process of conducting your initiative, which is, initiative in chess is the state where you are in charge of the course of actions. When you are in control of whatever is happening, you are the one who is in control. You're the first side that takes action. And usually you earn this. How you earn this? By collecting some advantages. So here, his opponent played the move queen b8. He's creating a threat. And this is another important moment. Think about this, Don't forget about your attacking plan, but also pay attention to your opponent's ideas. What is the opponent idea for black? Bishop takes h2, right? You can always play g3, you can always play h3. Those ideas are very interesting. However, Nathan here decided to try something interesting, which was just not paying too much attention on h2, ignore that, and continue with an attacking plan. Let's ask ourselves, what is, where does white has more chances, odds to win this game? We need to assess where we have more chances of success. In this case, that will be the king side. So that's why here Nathan, of course, he calculated all of this. He knows that he can keep the advantage with g3, h3, but he decided to play the move bishop h6 instead. The computer says that the best move here for black is rook c8, attacking the queen. All right, but this move is not very easy to find. I would say this was the only mistake that Nathan did here because he overlooked the move rook c8. But you will understand why rook c8 is so important. And actually, that's the only move that prevents black from losing the game on the spot. Why? Because after bishop h6, and the idea of bishop h6, by the way, is to control the dark squares that around the king, because that king on g8 is very weak, right? But what is the thing? If you continue with your threat, bishop h2 check, king h1, and now the bishop is trapped. And by the time you went back with the bishop on d6, you have the move, queen to c3, attacking on g7. So the idea of the computer of bishop h6, bishop h2, rook c8 before bishop h2 is to prevent queen c3, queen g7. That is the real idea. And once you go back, for example, here, then you can take on here, and then you can go back, probably on e5, just so you can control the dark squares. And still, white has advantage. If you notice, it's 0.94, which is a slight or clear advantage for white. I would say a slight advantage, but I think this is very good for white. But rook c8 was a very strong move. Nathan missed that move, and his opponent also missed this move. Because to see rook c8, you need to understand, and you need to see that queen c3 is coming at you, right? But he didn't see that as black. So after this, and this, queen c3, and now black is losing. Before we continue, when it comes to calculate, why good calculation is important in critical moments during the middle game? Because the conversion process depends on good calculation or luck. What do I mean by this? When you have an advantage, what's the next step to win the game? That process from getting advantage and winning the game is called conversion. Conversion process is converting your advantage to a victory, a full point. And that depends on two things. Good calculation, which is knowing what's going to happen, being in control of that, anticipating, calculating, being accurate, being thoughtful, or luck, not having a clue on what to do with your advantage. And most people are clueless. Good calculation, it's the pillar to convert games. And also, good calculation is important because you can do everything well, but if your calculation fails, you might lose the game. Because sometimes due to poor calculation skills, you can put the queen in the wrong place, and then you lose the game. When you have a good calculation, you see more than your opponent. And that will help you to materialize your advantage. So let's see, after queen c3, now Nathan knows he's winning because you can't actually prevent queen g7. So white has to play f6, but now this diagonal is very weak. Bishop c4 was played. And after this, queen h8, bishop takes f8, and now, well, white is completely winning the game. A couple of moves later, Nathan won the game. After bishop c4, bishop takes, and pawn to g3, Nathan converted the game. He ended up winning in the move 35. How do you improve your middle game? That's an important question. Well, I have some recommendations in case you want to improve your middle game. You have to study other masters' thought process in the middle game. And how can you do it? By reading books, by having a coach, by watching videos, all right? But the problem of most videos, whenever you want to read or study about middle games, is that the books or the videos, they show you the moves, what happened, but they don't explain you the thought process behind. That is a problem. In this video, at least, I tried to explain you how the move queen h5 happened. In this position, Nathan was assessing where he has more, he tried to assess where he has more chances to win the game, and he noticed that there's a bunch of pieces on the queen side, but the king side is just kind of alone, and also d5 is weak, so that's when he was like, okay, maybe queen h5, bishop d3, and I can conduct an attack, and also put pressure on d5. right? That's very important. So whenever you try to learn middle games, I recommend you to start by start not I mean, you can buy a book or you can watch videos, but also keep an eye on the thought process behind every move, behind every decision. Also recommend you to practice model games. That means solving puzzle type positions to elevate your judgment in the middle game. You know, the same way how you can train tactics by solving puzzles, you can do the same with strategy and middle game strategy. And there are some specific puzzles for that area as well, okay, for the middle game. And also, the other thing is start paying more attention to your opponent ideas. I know that this is hard to do without calculating well, which brings me to the next topic. That is, how do you improve your calculation? To improve your calculation, you need to solve puzzles that are difficult enough to stretch your calculation skills as much as possible. One mistake that I see a lot is that most people spend their time doing tactics, puzzles, 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 puzzles. And the problem is that if you notice that your puzzle rating is high, but your rating is still low, or you miss a lot of things in the process, maybe you need to elevate the complexity of the puzzles you solve. And when it comes to train your calculation skills, you need to have some material that is hard for you. So if the puzzle you have at hand is hard, you'll notice that you can't solve it in less than 10 minutes, right? But if you try to do online puzzles, most of the time these puzzles are puzzles you can solve in seconds. Those type of puzzles are not going to help you to improve your calculation. You need specific puzzles to improve your calculation skills and in a way that is going to be demanding in terms of energy and focus, and you are feeling like, okay, I can't solve this puzzle in less than 10 minutes, and it feels also like going to the gym, but for your brain. Example, endgame studies. I would recommend endgame studies to anyone who is around 17, 1800. But for those who are below, there are other type of puzzles that are great as well. All right, guys, I hope that this little session masterclass video was interesting for you. If you would like to know more about how to improve your chess, I highly recommend you to watch my free webinar, 5 Shifts to Reach 2000 Rating. You will find the link in the description of the video or a link somewhere. And in this webinar, you will understand what are all the things you're doing wrong in your training and why you're stuck. Okay, and this webinar is a good content for any adult player that is looking to improve their chess, but is clueless about what is the next step. So if you're an adult player and you think like most material is not helping you, then I highly recommend you to watch this video to understand what's going on and what's wrong and what are the things you can do to improve this. So go watch this webinar. And if you already watched the webinar for some reason, don't forget to subscribe. And also, let's connect on chess.com. Send me a message. You can find me on chess.com with the nickname of Chess Coach Diego, and we can, talk over there. I hope this video was, helpful for you. And this is one of the videos that I want to do in this. I want to talk more about middle games and what are my thoughts about middle games. And yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video and see you in the next ones. Take care.